Hello YouTube, welcome to another Preseason 7 League of Legends Champion Guide. Today, we're going to cover Vayne.
Let us hunt those who have fallen to darkness.
For more of my content, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/egamingtv or on Twitter at egaming_TV. All of the links for my social medias and the timestamps for this guide will be down in the video description, so make sure you check that out. I do Riot Point giveaways at the end of every month on my Twitter, as well as a poll each night on which champion I should cover the next day. So, if you're interested in entering those Riot Point giveaways, or you want to vote on which champion guide should be next, make sure you head over to Twitter. But now let's move on to the Vayne guide with her pros and cons. Vayne is an AD carry with great kiting and dodging, and has really easy repositioning, all from her Q ability. She can then even do % health damage, which is great against tanks with her W ability. She's then one of the few AD carries out there that actually has a crowd control in her kit. She then has amazing chase potential, as her passive does give her bonus movement speed moving towards an enemy champion, and this is further increased in her ultimate. When in her ultimate, her tumble even grants her stealth, which makes your repositioning even easier. Last tier is your really high late game damage, and when you combine this with the rest of your pros, you make for a very, very strong duelist. There's not many AD carries, or champions for that matter, that have a chance at 1v1ing you. For your cons, you do have a mediocre early game. You do have some low defensive based stats, and you don't have the longest auto attack range, so stuff like Caitlyn can be kind of a pain in the ass in the lane phase. Other than that though, she doesn't really have any other cons because pinks no longer reveal her. She's easily one of the best AD carries in this preseason. For your masteries, you'll want to go 18 ferocity and 12 cunning, grabbing Warlord's Bloodlust as your keystone mastery. You can also get Feast over Fresh Blood if you did prefer a little bit more lane sustain, but it's not that big of a deal. Same goes for Double-Edged Sword and Bounty Hunter. If you're confident that you're going to get yourself a bunch of kills, then you may as well get Bounty Hunter, but I prefer Double-Edged Sword myself, so I'll always have at least 5% more damage. For your runes, you'll want to go for attack damage reds, armor yellows, magic resist blues, and attack speed quints. Now you can also have an extra rune page with some glyphs of attack speed if you're against an easy to beat lane. Just make sure you have one with some magic resist in case you're against a strong support mage like Zyra or Brand. If you don't have any magic resist and you're against these champions, generally they're going to eat you up. Unless of course you tumble every single one of their skill shots. The only summoner spells I like to take on Vayne in the AD carry role are Flash and Heal. Flash is great because it will allow you to get kills running away, escape death, and it can make some really flashy plays. Its greatest strength will come in team fights because if you can get into a solid position, you can destroy the entire team as Vayne. Heal is then easily the best secondary summoner pick in the bot lane right now. The active heal is amazing in the bot lane because it can be used to save both you and your lane partner. The movement speed when you activate it can also save your life, but can also be used offensively to chase an enemy down. Now let's move on to your abilities, starting with your passive, Night Hunter. Vayne gains 30 bonus movement speed when moving towards a nearby visible enemy champion, and when in Final Hour, which is your ultimate, Night Hunter's bonus movement speed is tripled to 90, and this has a 2000 range. So this passive is pretty damn solid because it will allow you to chase enemies that are running away if they do get low in team fights. It's also pretty damn solid when repositioning because sometimes you will be moving towards the enemy champion when you are in stealth with your tumble. All in all, it is a great passive that adds some nice mobility. Now let's move on to your Q ability, Tumble. Vayne quickly rolls towards the cursor's location, causing her next basic attack within 7 seconds to deal bonus physical damage, which critically strikes if the attack is also a critical strike. This ability will also reset your auto attack timer, and when used in Final Hour, you will turn invisible for 1 second on cast. So this ability now has more AD, and with the crit changed as well, it is by far her best ability. This ability is the main reason an AD/crit build is now more favored over an attack speed build and maxing your W. Max your tumble, use it every 2 seconds, and delete the enemy team. It's of course absolutely fantastic for dodging skill shots as well. So now let's look at that W ability, Silver Bolts. Vayne's basic attacks and abilities mark her target with Silver Bolts for 3 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. Attacking a new enemy cleanses the previous target of all Silver Bolts. The third stack consumes all Silver Bolts on the target to deal them true damage. The damage has a minimum damage threshold and is capped at 200 against monsters. So this can deal up to 12% of the target's maximum health, which is pretty damn massive. This is still a very, very solid ability on Vayne since we will still have a lot of attack speed. It's just no longer as good as our Q, so we do have to max it second, but when you are fighting, try to make sure you get 3 attacks on a target, don't keep swapping, otherwise this will do absolutely nothing. Keep in mind that this also works on abilities, so you can auto attack, tumble, and then use your E, Condemn, to get off a really quick 3 and proc this damage. Now let's look at that last basic ability, your E, Condemn. Vayne fires a heavy bolt at the target unit, dealing physical damage, knocking them back, and applying silver bolts. If the target is knocked into a wall, they take the same damage again and are stunned for 1.5 seconds. So this is a pretty awesome ability because it gives Vayne a crowd control, which is something a lot of AD carries lack. Now, although it is a really solid ability, we do only need one early point in it so we can actually CC, other than that we're maxing our Q and W. But regardless, it lets Vayne work with picks like Blitzcrank and can actually form a kill lane. Don't forget to use this ability to peel for yourself, as you can knock targets back. Alright, time to finish off your abilities with your ultimate, Final Hour. Vayne temporarily gains bonus attack damage, empowering Night Hunter and Tumble for the duration. So, as we know, Night Hunter's speed when moving towards an enemy will change from 30 to 90, and Tumble will give 1 second of stealth when used. You pretty much just want to activate this ultimate whenever you're going for full-on fights. All of the extra movement speed will be great for chasing and repositioning, and that stealth tumble will allow you to reposition and can really make you hard to kill. The fact that there's no longer vision wards is part of the reason Vayne is one of the best AD carries at the moment. Plus, of course there's all that bonus AD, making it even better. For your skill order, you first want to put a point into your ultimate whenever you can at 6, 11, and 16. Then, with all of the nice buffs our Tumble received, we want to max that one first. It's by far our best ability now. Then, we want to move on to maxing our W. It still deals a lot of damage and is great against tanky champions. Finally, we finish off with our E, just get 1 point at level 3 so we can actually CC and peel for ourselves, then save it for last. Now let's look at some support synergies, and first up we have Janna. She has a knock up, an AoE knockback and heal, a slow, she can speed you up, and she can shield you and even give you some extra attack damage. What the hell else can you ask from a support? Now the one downside is she is a rather passive pick and you probably won't get fed off of kills, but you are going to have a very easy time farming as you will be very safe and you're going to have infinite peels in teamfights. Next is Nami, and she's another super solid pick with Vayne. She brings multiple crowd controls with her Aqua Prison and Tidal Wave, which can combo great with a Condemn. Tidecaller's Blessing then gives you some extra damage and a slow on 3 auto attacks, which synergizes perfectly with your Silver Bolts. If all of that wasn't enough, she can even sustain you with Ebb and Flow. She's fantastic with Vayne. Well, let's look at 2 more, and first up is Morgana. She's definitely an underrated support pick that you don't see too often. Morgana can completely stop crowd controls with Black Shield, allowing you to play more aggressively. Her Soul Shackles then provides the ultimate peel as it can stun an entire team. Then of course you have that Dark Binding, which provides an amazing snare that lasts honestly forever, and it works great with Condemn. So last here we have Blitzcrank, and he's one of the better kill lanes you can run with a Vayne. As long as he's able to pull a target with his rocket grab and pop them up with his power fist, you can use your tumble to get to an angle and knock them into a wall with Condemn to stun them for an easy ass kill. He's also very strong for your team later on, and a single rocket grab can win you the game. If you want a kill lane, go with Blitz. Of course, there's also a bunch of other great support champions that do work with Vayne, like the Braum one in this guide. The lane phase is all about getting as much farm as possible so you can get your core items in order to destroy the enemy team in the mid and late game. If you're with a passive support, you're generally not going to be spending much time harassing the opponent because you won't want to get in full-blown engagements. Pick up all the farm you can. If you're with a more aggressive support like Blitzcrank or perhaps even a Morgana, then you're going to want to follow up on their crowd controls with your Condemn. You're not the best AD carry at trading, but you can deal a ton of damage on something if it is CC'd. Teamfighting can be one of the hardest parts of playing Vayne effectively when you first pick her up. First, you'll want to make sure you're saving your tumble for repositioning. You need it in order to kite away from an enemy champion. Don't use it too much aggressively unless you know you can get a kill. For the love of God, do not dive into the backline as an AD carry. You'll have to deal with the front line first, but if there is a carry there, then you'll want to focus them on the front line. Your Condemn isn't only good for stunning somebody against a wall, it's also great when used to peel for yourself if somebody does get on top of you. Finally, use the stealth from Tumble when in Final Hour to move unpredictably so assassins can't delete you. So now let's look at a couple hard matchups, and first up is Caitlyn, and she's probably the most well-known hard matchup for Vayne. She's got really good long-range damage from her auto attacks and pilt over Peacemaker, and she's also even able to escape your all-in with her E or a trap. Don't take unnecessary damage in lane. If you end up minus 25 CS, it doesn't matter because you will outscale her as the game progresses, regardless. Draven is then an absolute monster in lane. He can spam spinning axes at you during the whole lane phase and can easily keep up to you with his Blood Rush. You'll want to play very passively against a good Draven. It's a matchup easily in his favor, and you may need to just farm under your own tower. Try your best to keep him off of 2 spinning axes by knocking him away from them with your Condemn. You do have a few other hard matchups, but these ones are the standout ones. Now let's finish this off with our item build, which starts with a Doran's Blade, Health Potion, and Warding Totem. For your first buys, you'll want to get a BF Sword and then start working towards your Static Shiv. Of course, you can get Brown Boots as well. For your core build, you have Static Shiv, Infinity Edge, Berserker Greaves, and a Phantom Dancer. This will give you 80% crit already, a ton of attack damage, movement speed, attack speed, and of course the plus crit damage from your Infinity Edge. Easily the best core build for Vayne at the moment, as it pumps out a ton of damage with your Tumble. For your item pool, we first have Blade of the Ruined King, which is a great item against tanks. This is actually getting buffed a bit in 6.23, and it's definitely worth considering getting into your build. If I do grab one though, generally I will replace the Phantom Dancer from the core build because I don't like having all of those items and then adding a Blade of the Ruined King on top of it. Next we have the Bloodthirster, and it's a great way to get a bunch more attack damage and have some really solid sustain. We of course then have Mercurial Scimitar. It's great for that sustain as well, but the ability to break crowd controls is what sets it apart. If we then need some armor penetration, we could get an LDR or a Mortal Reminder. I'll generally pick up the LDR almost always unless I really need that Grievous Wounds. Then moving on, we have the Guardian Angel, a very fantastic defensive pickup as it does give you some magic resist, armor, and the ability to come back to life. If the enemy team has a lot of crowd controls and we're very worried about getting hit by one, we could get a Banshee's Veil to block one spell, so we will have a better team fight. For our normal full build, we'll take our core, add the Bloodthirster for all of its sustain, and the LDR to get through any armor the enemy has. For our Blade of the Ruined King full build, we took our core, but instead of the Phantom Dancer, took that Blade of the Ruined King, then went for an LDR, and of course, the Guardian Angel. Against some team comps, the LDR isn't even necessary because you do have a lot of true damage from your W. But that covers everything I've got for pre-Season 7 AD Carry Vayne. Don't forget to check out the video description for a link to all of my social medias, and if you do want to vote on the next champion guide, make sure you head to Twitter. But other than that, thank you guys a ton for watching the champion guide, and I'll see you guys in the one tomorrow. Peace!